Hey everybody, Xucaboa is back! Coming at you with the last round of Skyline6, baby! The city has grown so much and been radically transformed by each creator contributing to the project. So, hold on to your butts for next week's grand finale, hosted by none other than Flyovers. There are so many possible ways that I could have done a project in this episode, and I found a really neat little corner of the map right over here. Just look at it. It's begging me for something to get built over here. But we're not just gonna slap something down for no reason. We're gonna incorporate the world-famous MIAU method of detailing to create a scene that is truly gangster. Because that's how we roll. I'm gonna start by clearing out these stretches of highway, train tracks, and forested areas. When we take a look at the topographical map, we see that next to this majestic mountain, we have a uniformly flat field exactly 10 meters above sea level. That is certainly a terrain transition, but let's make it even more interesting. I'm going to extend the mountain ridges down in this direction towards the sea in some kind of fingery ridge kind of way. Now, despite the rumors, I am not a geomorphologist, but if I were to venture a guess, I'd say this is 100% accurate in terms of science and nature. Now, I'm gonna carve out a canyon right in the middle of it, because why not? We've got to make way for our railway to pass through, and I don't want to tunnel it because that won't be nearly as scenic. Some people respect the topography, but I'm gonna teach you to make the topography respect you back. Using the freeform road tool, I'm going to curve a nice train track right through here and line it up back to where it used to connect. Then we'll put the terrain back and smooth it out to make it into an awesome little canyon that trains will choo-choo right on through. Now let's wrap our highway system back around this way. I like to use industrial roads to draw it out before upgrading because they work a lot easier in vanilla than actual highways. When we take a look at the topographical view again, we see that this peak is just over 100 meters above sea level. Very respectable. Now let's create some grading for the highway to go around this new peak. Long, gradual slopes are great and add a lot of depth to the physical landscape. Of course, we're doing our rough pass now. We can get very finicky with the terrain detailing later on. Now, let's fine-tune our highway overpasses. By playing around with gravel roads, we can reset the node locations and force pillars to spawn under them at spots that will look just right. Now we'll fill the terrain back in and slope it gently, so when we zoom in close and look underneath, it looks really sharp. Check out the start of this scenic canyon. Alright, some more overpasses. Let's use the same pillar technique right here. Beautiful. Everything is looking parallel and good. Ay caramba, that's a bit topical. Here in MORATO, we want to keep our trains on the tracks, but I still haven't unpaused the game and let that despawn. Okay, this piece of highway I just drew is way too straight and boring. Let's make it a bit more of a sweeping curve. I'll use a gravel path just to mark the area and clear out some trees in advance. You'll notice I try to remove most trees before I build things because there's a lot of them and they eat up system resources if you're not careful. Now we're going to make our road that connects or collects or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to use this 4-lane bike road with trees. It will act as a divided highway, but also allow for cyclists to take advantage of this Tour de MORATO course we're making here. For our overpass road to the S'mores Entertainment District by Raid Kitty, we'll use a 4-lane stone bridge because meow method, baby. That's how we roll. Now we'll start sloping an off-ramp down from the highway to connectee to our collectee, at least for this one direction. Instead of making a traditional compact interchange, I'm going to basically make a diamond interchange that is spread out over the twists and turns. It's a super easy concept, yet looks very snazzy for any noobs that you want to impress. But before we can connect the other side of the highway, we've got to get to work in our mountain and get this road access over across the other side. Even before we connect our highway, we gotta get a train station in here, since we all put so much work into making these tracks look really sharp. Whoops, I put in 6 lanes instead of 4 lanes. Let me fix that real quick. That's pretty embarrassing. I bet y'all are saying, look at him, he made a mistake. Well, you know what, that's okay, because I've got big vanilla energy coursing through my arterials. And if you haven't noticed yet, this is unmodded gameplay. Remember, you don't need mods to be a gangster, as long as you remember that meow method I was talking about before. When dealing with interesting terrain transitions and dynamic road layouts, it is critical to always plan your gradients for sloping a roadway up and down a hill. Remember, steep does exist in real life, but if possible, a nice gradual is ideal. Check out how this sweet new extra wide sidewalk street lines up directly into the node of this CCP train section. To complement the train station and provide some services to our city, let's add a road maintenance depot near it. I always try to position the building with that little seating window and entryway in mind. Let's work in a bicycle path along the street to allow our Sims to bike from the train station over to our streets with bicycle lanes. And a quick detailing fade, since nobody wants to watch me plant trees all day. I do spend a lot of time planting each tree. I did add some non-tree detailing, but we'll come back to that later. I did get a little carried away. So let's now create the grand entry into our new town over here. We'll start with some quick terrain preparation, and by using a 45-degree angle technology, we can make this nice split here at the head of our road. but ay caramba, our cells aren't totally squared up. That's okay. By going back and forth one more time, it sorts it right out. Now, by setting my nodes with gravel streets, I'm going to span across and make a pedestrian street to center our town building down on. I know, this is all very symmetrical of me, but by throwing in bits of symmetry in an otherwise organic road environment, you get a dynamic road layout. Since I know some people do enjoy watching detailing on camera, I'm gonna do a little bit here very quickly. You can probably tell that being part of Skyline 6 has really started to influence my style, which I'm really embracing. Be sure to check out the rest of the Skyline 6 season and see how so many different creators with wildly different approaches came together to make this beautiful city come alive. Also, join us in our group Discord, the City of Friends, and hang out with us and a great community of really awesome people who love this game. Okay, now we'll square off our block here with these 3-lane one-way streets with bicycle lanes. And in the corner, we'll add some more pedestrian streets so we can slap down these beautiful new garden park assets. So, since we have started to use pedestrian streets, we need a pedestrian service point. I'll opt for the larger one because it looks like a nice downtown building. We are at the edge of the 25 tile buildable area and we don't want it to be too obvious. So I'm going to set up this street to have a creative arts high school backed up against the tile. This way it might look like the field there is part of the school. Okay, we'll prepare our waterfront area by creating some layered tiers of terrain that we can work with. Around the town square, let's add some services, like a bank and a fire station. The medical clinic is a nice asset right over here. Now, all the buildings I'm choosing are trying to get a certain vibe for this new area, not too high profile. They should be complementing the town square. Now let's set up our power and water utility connections across the map. A short radio mast is a nice touch here, right by the highway. And now check out this sweet little roadside diner asset. So much new stuff came out while I was away. This is just great. Okay, we can start to name our districts we've begun to set up. I'm feeling a bit cheesy today, so we'll call this town Queso. The pedestrian area we can call Largo do Queijo. And our waterfront we can call Xucaboa. Normally I do my zoning off camera, but I'll give you this 1 hour of selective asset choosing so you can hopefully appreciate just how much effort goes into which building is placed down. I'm not saying you need to do this, but I always feel very invested in my projects when I take the time to know each part very personally. By using a straight road, I was able to mix zoning and styles of European high-density commercial and financial district office buildings for a nice Xucaboa waterfront scene. Just peeking over behind them, I have some wall-to-wall residential buildings. I haven't detailed yet, but take a look at the street level. Of course, this is made possible by the M part of the MIAU method. Now, let's take mixed zoning, density, and districts a step further up here in Queso. So here I've zoned a mixture of green cities and standard residential, traditional low-density commercial with some modern commercial center assets, and a few more financial buildings. Sometimes just 1 or 2 buildings from a specific style is worth it. I did add a new district over here and named it Nacho. I was thinking of making a pun with the name, but it's just Nacho Lucky Day. So here are the buildings that I've added to the rest of the town. Nothing on its own is too fancy, but by being very thoughtful about how I combine these assets, I think it makes a very authentic looking neighborhood. So I did add one more mini district here, which I'll just rename High School Parking. Since I recorded this video in early March 2023, I anticipate that by the time this video is released, Colossal Order will have given us some DLC that includes at least a basic parking lot asset. Before we finish up with detailing, let's take a look at the area's basic stats. Our buildings are mostly leveled up, traffic looks great, land value is super high, and education is excellent. Well, except for that one building. I guess they're just not too bright there. That's okay. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that MIAU method is an excellent way to set up a beautiful scene, with or without mods, no matter what look you're going for. Make sure to tell people about Xucaboa MIAU method because I think we've still got a few million people in the world who just don't even know they can have great looking cities yet. Alright, let's take a look at our finished town detailing. I did switch out the waterfront assets again. And over on this point, I added a lot of rocky boulders for the U part of the MIAU method, undeveloped areas for nature. Now let's add just a little bit more nature over on this side of the project. Okay, it took me a few hours, but I've tried to blend all the trees that are part of the map, and I've added some safety rails and a few road signs using park props to spruce up the highway detailing. By leaving some large areas of your city undeveloped for nature, it really makes the entire scene of your city complete. There are lots of different ways to add nature too. I'm not just talking about rocks and trees, so try to imagine different methods your city can use to benefit from this approach. Don't forget to click the thumb if you've made it this far. Remember that next Sunday is the live Skyline6 Vanilla, hosted by the world-famous Flyovers on Joy Build Cities channel. Join us as we go over the city project and talk with you all directly as we review this epic collaboration project that has spanned months. Of course, you can always find us hanging out in the City of Friends Discord server too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.